Hello, YouTube. Deacon Do here. An update 1.54 has dropped for Gran Turismo 7. Now, originally, we were told 5 new cars, a few new events, and not much else. But then the update dropped at 32 gigabytes. That's a pretty big update just for 5 cars and a few events. So, a lot of people were speculating that this update would be the PS5 Pro Enhanced version. And after reading the patch notes, it was. But for me personally, I wanted to know what we did to improve PSVR 2. Now, if you watch this channel, you know I do a lot of racing in VR, and I was waiting for this update to relaunch Virtual Gear now in 4K. And so I wanted to jump right in and see what this looked like. I will also say that when No Man's Sky dropped their PS5 Pro update, their enhancements to VR were night and day. They went from an odd 1480 or 1485 resolution, I forget which, to 4K in VR. And when I hopped in, it was noticeable right away. So for me, No Man's Sky has set that bar pretty high. But let's go ahead and take a look at what this update did for PS VR 2. Now, this update included a lot more than what we are going to cover in this video. But specifically for the PS5 Pro and for PSVR 2, this is what they have added in the patch notes. We added a mode that combines higher image quality and frame rate performance by fully utilizing the PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution for PlayStation 5 Pro. Ray-traced reflections have been introduced during races, with the option available by selecting Prioritize Ray Tracing/Resolution in the display settings. They've added an 8K resolution mode, enhanced rendering quality in VR mode, and smoother video playback in VR mode achieved through the VR positional reprojection function. Now, I don't know much about that function, so we'll have to do a follow-up on that. Right now, I just want to focus on what these enhancements do to improve the PSVR 2 quality. And here we have some VR footage from the launch PlayStation 5 at Le Mans. One of my biggest gripes about Gran Turismo in VR is the peripheral, the edges of the screens are sometimes very hard to read. And you can see that with some of the, the fuzziness of cars on the edge, both the driver's side and the passenger side mirrors, if you're not looking right at them. It seems like your focal point is very clear, but the edges seem a little bit grungy. And that's the first thing I noticed about the PS5 Pro update, is that the edges aren't as fuzzy. Yeah, there's still a little bit of fuzz there. You can see it in the instrument panel and maybe even on the passenger side mirror, but the driver's side mirror is much more clear, and it seems like my focal point, or my clarity focal point, is much larger than it was on the PS5 Pro. It's a little bit hard to see in 2D, but it definitely is there, and it definitely is noticeable. Another issue I had with Gran Turismo in VR on the original PlayStation was when moving your head. Now, you did not have to do it a ton, but when you did do it, it seemed very jerky. It was not as smooth as I really felt it should have been. And you can see that definitely here in a few spots when I'm looking at cars on my right. Again, this is the original PlayStation 5. And because I have more clarity on the edges here on the PS5 Pro, I don't have to turn my head as often. But when I do, you can see it's a lot more clear than it was on the original PS5. And so I think that's a huge update as well for you VR racers, is when you do have to turn your head, it's a lot smoother. It doesn't stutter as much. It doesn't seem like it's dropping more frames. And you're going to see that a few more times here near the end of this straightaway and the short straight after, where yeah, I have to move my head a little bit, and maybe that's just me driving, but it's a lot smoother, and it's a lot smoother on the edges as well, which is a huge benefit. And both of these combine to give what I feel is better level of detail rendering. Now, I think the level of detail is really good on the original PSVR 2, but only in certain spots and only for part of the time. I think with the smoothness and the removal of a lot of the fuzziness on the edges, I believe the level of detail here looks a lot better, as you can really see in the trees from the previous clip and this clip. So those are just a few examples of the differences between the standard PS5 and the PS5 Pro when racing in VR in Gran Turismo 7. And I know a lot of people are going to ask, well, if I have a PS5, do I need to get a Pro if I race in VR in Gran Turismo? And I've been pretty consistent in saying that the Pro is a heck of a machine, okay? The games I play, NCAA 25, Madden 25, Dying Light 2, Resident Evil Village, No Man's Sky, both regular and in VR, Gran Turismo 7, regular and VR, all feel miles ahead of what they felt like on the PS5. I'm also a huge gamer. I'm probably on my console 20 hours a week easy. And I feel that for me, going from a PS5 to a PS5 Pro was worth it. Everybody's mileage may vary. I said when Gran Turismo 7 came out that it felt like the game that the PS5 was built for. And I said the same thing when the PSVR 2 headset came out, that Gran Turismo 7 felt like the game that the headset was built for. And after now playing the enhanced version for the PS5 Pro, I feel even more passionate about that racing in VR and non-VR on the PS5 Pro just feels like, this is what the PS5 Pro was built for. It was built for Gran Turismo. I know it does a lot of other games really well. And so is it worth it to upgrade? It depends on your budget. Depends on how much time you spend on your PlayStation 5. Depends, do you want or need the smoothest graphics? Because they're definitely smoother on the Pro than on the 5. Do you need or want that extra hard drive space, right? Because again, the PS5 Pro comes with 2 terabytes versus 800 gig for the standard PS5. And so there's a lot of things to consider when determining whether I need to get a PS5 Pro or no, I'm going to stick with my PS5. But I will say that Gran Turismo 7 in VR on the Pro feels a lot smoother. Feels a lot, what's the word I'm looking for? It just feels better. That's all I can say. It drives better. It drives smoother. And overall is just a better experience. And this has been pretty consistent with every game I've played in VR on the Pro versus the regular PS5. So ultimately, it's going to be up to you whether you think it's worth it or not. But for me, it's definitely worth getting the PS5 Pro. All right, until next time, y'all take care of yourselves and each other. Have a great day. Bye-bye.